I was just fixing my top in the hallway mirror. A simple thing, adjusting a strap that wouldn't stay on my shoulder. I didn't hear the door open. I didn't hear the footsteps behind me, but I felt the air shift. And when I turned, still holding the fabric against my chest, he was already standing there. Our mailman. He didn't apologize. He didn't look away. He just stood there, staring as if I'd been the one to walk into his house. And the worst part? I didn't pull the strap back up. My name's Marla Whitmore. I'm 49, and I live in a beige house with matching shutters in a town where all the excitement ends by 8 o'clock. I've been married to Terry for 23 years. We met in college, back when his hair was thick and he used to write poems in the margins of my notebooks. He doesn't write anymore. Not unless it's an email to his foreman or a note stuck to the fridge that says, "Out of milk. Grab some." He's a good man. I don't say that sarcastically, he is. He works hard, pays the bills, mows the lawn, never forgets to check the oil in my car. But he stopped noticing me somewhere around year 11, maybe 12. I don't know. It's a blur. We used to make plans. Now we make dinner. He used to touch my hand during movies. Now he passes me the remote without looking up. We sleep in the same bed, but the space between us feels like a canyon. I lay there most nights, wondering when it happened, the slow drift apart. There's no one else in his life. I know that. There's just less of me in it. And lately, I've been catching myself doing things I don't recognize. Putting on mascara before grocery runs. Changing tops twice before going to the post office. Lingering in front of mirrors longer than necessary, not out of vanity, but curiosity. I just want to see if the woman I used to be is still somewhere in there. He started on our route a little over a year ago. Tall, broad-shouldered, quiet, maybe in his early 40s, but it's hard to tell. He has the kind of face that doesn't care about age. The name on his badge said Jake, but I didn't learn that until much later. At first, he was just another part of the routine. Letters, packages, the sound of his truck rattling over the pothole near the curb. But then one day, he knocked. It was a small parcel, nothing important, but he waited for me to open the door instead of leaving it on the step. When I opened it, I was in yoga pants and an old t-shirt, sweating from scrubbing baseboards. My hair was tied up, no makeup, no illusion. Just me. And he smiled. Not a polite smile. Not the kind you give out of habit. It was slow, warm, the kind that made me feel seen. "Package for Marla Whitmore," he said. I took it, our fingers brushing. Static. Real or imagined, I don't know. I said thank you. He said, "You're welcome." And then, right before he turned, he added, "You've got one of those voices, soft but sharp. Like you're always thinking something smart you're not saying." I stood there after he left, the box tucked against my hip, heart beating faster than it should have. It wasn't flirting. It wasn't anything. But I remembered that line for days. Still do. After that, I started to notice him more. Not just because he was attractive, though he was, but because he moved like he belonged in his body. Like he wasn't hiding anything. There was no pretense in Jake. He didn't smile unless he meant it. Didn't talk unless he had something worth saying. Which made it mean something when he did speak. One morning, I watched from the upstairs window as he walked up the driveway. He moved with this effortless steadiness. Like nothing rattled him. Like everything in his world was manageable. Terry was already gone for work, and I hadn't dressed yet. I was in my robe, the silk one I never wore unless it was just me in the house. The mirror in the hallway caught me as I passed it. The strap had slipped again, that thin one that always betrayed me, and I reached to adjust it. And that's when the door opened. I'd forgotten to lock it. I froze, one hand still gripping the strap, the other pressed to my chest. "Marla?" His voice came, careful, uncertain. "You okay?" I turned. He was halfway in, holding a small box, I searching my face, then glancing down, just once, before returning to meet my gaze. "I'm sorry," he said, not quite stepping back. I knocked. The door moved. I thought. "It's fine," I said too quickly. "It's always sticking." He didn't move. Neither did I. "You want me to take a look at it sometime?" he asked. The door, "It's not the door," I replied, without meaning to. "I think I just forget to lock it lately." He smiled. Slow, knowing. "Well, guess it's a good thing it's just me walking in." I nodded. But I didn't fix the strap. Not right away. He didn't leave right away either. Instead, he walked past me, so close his arm brushed mine, and set the package on the table. When he turned back, we were face to face. Close enough I could see the flecks of green in his eyes. "You always this forgetful?" he asked, voice low. "Not always." He nodded slowly, like that answer told him more than I intended. And then he left. But my hands shook for 10 minutes after the door closed. It happened again a week later. Terry had left early for a job 3 towns over. I'd thrown on that same robe without thinking. Coffee in one hand, phone in the other, scrolling through a message from my sister I wasn't really reading. And again, that strap. Always that damn strap. I was in front of the mirror, trying to slide it back into place when I heard it, the faint creak of the hinge. I turned. He was already inside. This time, he didn't say a word. He just stood there, watching me. Eyes sharp, mouth slightly open, like he was about to speak but didn't. I should have pulled the robe tighter. I should have said something casual, light, dismissive. But I didn't. I just looked at him. And for a long second, neither of us moved. Then he stepped forward, slow, deliberate, until he was standing just inches away. His eyes dropped to my shoulder, to the strap hanging loose, then back up to mine. "You're not wearing your ring today," he said, barely above a whisper. I swallowed. My hand instinctively touched the space where the tan line still lived. "I forgot," I lied. He didn't smile. He didn't look amused. He just reached out, and his fingers brushed the strap on my shoulder. He didn't fix it. He didn't pull it up or tug it down. He just touched it and let the silence do the rest. My breath caught. My heart felt like it was somewhere in my throat. He leaned in, just enough for me to feel the warmth of him, but not enough to make it a move. "Not yet." Then he said, voice low, "If you keep leaving the door open, I'm going to keep walking in." And then he walked out, without waiting for an answer. I stood there, robe askew, hand on my shoulder, shaking, and for the first time in years, I realized I was in a kind of trouble that no one would believe, because I wanted him to come back. The next morning, I stood in the same hallway, same mirror, same damn strap sliding off my shoulder. But this time, the door was locked. I checked it twice. Not because I didn't want him to come in, but because if he had, I didn't know what I would have done. Terry was downstairs eating toast. Same seat, same spread of paperwork from the night before. He asked if I'd seen his blue thermos. I hadn't. He didn't notice that I was still flushed, that my coffee mug shook in my hand, or that I'd barely slept. Jake's voice was still in my head. "If you keep leaving the door open." It wasn't what he said. It was what he didn't do. He hadn't touched me. Not really. Just the strap. Just long enough to say what we both knew. There was a door between us. And it was unlocked. I wore my wedding ring again, but it felt heavier than usual. For 2 weeks, I didn't see him. I told myself I was relieved. That maybe he'd been reassigned. That whatever was simmering between us would go back to silence. But then he came back. On a Tuesday. I was in the garden clipping back the roses, not because they needed it, but because I couldn't sit still. He parked the truck like he always did, stepped out like nothing had happened. But his eyes met mine immediately. There was no small talk this time. He handed me the envelope. Said nothing. But when our hands touched, just briefly, it was like touching something live. Terry was inside, just through the window, watching TV with the volume too loud. Jake lingered. "Do you want to come in?" I heard myself say. The words were out before I knew what they meant. He didn't answer, just followed. I poured us each a glass of tea. We sat at the kitchen island, 3 feet apart. But it might as well have been nothing. He asked me why I kept the door unlocked. I said I didn't know. He asked me what I was afraid of. I said I wasn't afraid. And then, he leaned in. Just enough. Not touching me. Not crossing that final line. But close enough that I felt it. "We're not doing anything," I whispered. He smiled. "Aren't we?" I closed my eyes. There was no kiss, no contact. But the way he looked at me, like I'd been asleep for years, and he was the dream I'd never wanted to wake up from, it unraveled something in me. We didn't make love. We didn't even touch. But when he left that day, I leaned against the door, chest heaving like I'd just done something unforgivable. Because I had. We crossed a line we couldn't uncross. And I started waiting for him. It was a Thursday when it all came undone. Terry had been acting different all week, quiet, watchful. At first, I thought it was work. Then I thought maybe I was just projecting. I tried to be normal. Tried to cook more. Touch him more. He didn't pull away. But he didn't lean in either. That night, after dinner, he handed me his phone. "Is this you?" he asked. The screen showed a still image. A paused video. It was our hallway. My mirror. That robe. And behind me, just barely, the door opening. Jake stepping inside. I stared. Cold all over. Terry said nothing. Didn't scream. Didn't accuse. Just watched me. "There's motion sensors," he finally said. "I put them in 6 months ago when those packages got stolen off the porch. I forgot they record clips. Until one popped up this morning." He looked at me like I was someone he didn't know. "Is there something you need to tell me, Marla?" I opened my mouth. Closed it. What could I say? That we hadn't touched? That it was just looks? Words? He wouldn't believe me. And maybe I didn't either. "Nothing happened," I whispered. "But something could have." "I know that." He nodded once. Slowly. And then he walked out. No suitcase. No threats. No slammed doors. He just left. The next day, I found his ring in the sink. And the house was quieter than it had ever been. Jake didn't come back. I didn't expect him to. He wasn't the villain in this story. And neither, I think, was I. I never lied with my body. But I betrayed my marriage with something worse, my attention. My longing. I haven't seen Terry since that night. He didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't demand or explain. He just disappeared. And sometimes that's louder than yelling. I still stand in front of that mirror some mornings. Still catch my reflection. Still see the strap fall. And every time it does, I think of 2 men. One who looked through me. And one who saw everything. But in the end, it didn't matter who walked in. Because the one who walked out took more than just himself. He left the ring. I left everything else.